First contact gone wrong. Lieutenant Naira Voss had served in the interstellar peacekeeping force for 15 cycles, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. The abandoned research station Helios 7 loomed before her ship like a massive skeleton, its dark corridors holding secrets she was tasked to uncover. 3 days ago, the station's long-dormant emergency beacon had activated, broadcasting a signal that shouldn't have existed. The station had been decommissioned during the Nexus Wars, nearly 30 years ago. Yet here she was, responding to a phantom call that defied explanation. Naira's crystalline skin shimmed slightly as she adjusted her environmental suit. As a Lumerian, she possessed natural bioluminescence, but even her glow seemed dimmed by the station's oppressive darkness. Her four-fingered hand gripped the standard-issue pulse rifle as she moved through the airlock, each step calculated and precise. The station's artificial gravity still functioned, though barely. Her boots magnetized automatically, compensating for the fluctuating gravitational field. The air was thin but breathable, tasting of metal and time. Her sensor suite picked up faint power signatures deeper within the station, impossible readings that suggested active systems. "Central Command, this is Lieutenant Voss," she transmitted. "Beginning interior sweep of Helios 7. Initial readings indicate unauthorized power usage in Sector 7. Static answered her transmission. The station's hull was playing havoc with her communications. Movement caught her eye, a shadow shifting against shadows. Naira's training took over. "Halt and identify," she called out, her translator automatically converting her natural crystalline harmonics into standard galactic common. The figure continued moving, seemingly unaware or uncaring of her command. Naira's threat assessment protocols kicked in. Unknown entity, unauthorized presence, failure to comply with peacekeeping directives. Her rifle hummed to life, targeting systems locked on the moving shadow. "Final warning, halt and identify." The figure turned suddenly, something metallic glinting in its hands. Naira didn't hesitate. Her finger squeezed the trigger, sending a concentrated burst of plasma energy directly at the target's center mass. The brilliant blue bolt illuminated the corridor for a split second, revealing a humanoid figure before striking true. Instead of the expected result, a clean, cauterized wound, something extraordinary happened. The plasma bolt seemed to ripple across the figure's body like water on glass, dispersing in a web of electric blue energy before fading entirely. The figure stumbled but remained standing. That's not very friendly," a distinctly male voice said, sounding more annoyed than injured. "Though I suppose I should have announced myself better." Naira's sensor suite finally got a clear reading on the figure, and her heart nearly stopped. Human, but humans weren't supposed to be able to survive a direct plasma hit. Their physiology was notoriously fragile compared to most spacefaring species. The human stepped into the light cast by Naira's bioluminescence. He appeared male, middle-aged by human standards, with silver-streaked dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold their own inner light. His environment suit was odd, not military or standard civilian issue, but something custom, covered in what appeared to be mechanical augmentations. "Lieutenant Marcus Blackwood," he said, offering a slight bow. "Former Earth Space Corps, current independent researcher, and you, my crystalline friend, just shot me with enough energy to power a small city." Naira kept her rifle trained on him, her mind racing. "Humans don't survive plasma bolts," she stated flatly. "What are you?" Marcus smiled, though there was something sad in his expression. "Now that's quite a story, one I'm willing to share, considering you've already tried to kill me once. But first, we need to discuss why we're both here. Because this station, it's not as abandoned as everyone thinks, and what's hidden here could change the balance of power in the galaxy." He reached slowly into his suit's pocket and withdrew a small device. It projected a hologram of complex genetic sequences that Naira recognized from her xenobiology training, human DNA, but unlike anything she'd ever seen before. The sequences twisted and reformed, showing modifications that should have been impossible. "The real question, Lieutenant Voss," Marcus said, her name somehow known to him. is whether you're ready to learn why humanity's apparent fragility might be the greatest deception in galactic history. The station groaned around them, as if emphasizing the weight of his words. Naira realized she stood at a crossroads, duty and protocol on one side, and on the other, a mystery that challenged everything she thought she knew about humanity. Her decision here would change not just her life, but potentially the future of galactic civilization itself. She lowered her rifle but kept it ready. Start talking, Blackwood, and this explanation better be good. Truths. Marcus Blackwood led Naira deeper into Helios 7, through corridors that seemed to breathe with ancient secrets. Her crystalline form cast prismatic light patterns on the walls, creating an ethereal atmosphere that only heightened the tension between them. During the Nexus Wars, Marcus began, his voice echoing slightly in the confined space, humanity was considered little more than a curiosity. Too young, too fragile to matter in the grand scheme of things, the perfect place to hide something revolutionary. They reached a sealed door marked with faded warning symbols in multiple languages. Marcus placed his hand on the control panel, and to Naira's surprise, it responded, systems awakening after decades of silence. "How did you get access?" she demanded, her translator struggling to convey her suspicion. "These systems should be dead." Marcus's eyes flickered with that strange inner light again. "Because, Lieutenant, I was here when they shut it down. I was part of Project Prometheus, humanity's answer to our own extinction." The door slid open with a groan, revealing a vast laboratory space. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing genetic sequences, molecular structures, and what appeared to be human test subjects. But these weren't medical records, they were weapon designs. "The Nexus Wars threatened to wipe out humanity," Marcus continued, moving through the lab with familiar ease. "We were caught between the hegemony and the collective, our worlds reduced to battlegrounds. But we had one advantage: we were underestimated." Naira studied the displays, her military training helping her piece together the implications. "You weren't just developing weapons, you were weaponizing yourselves." "Evolution by design," Marcus confirmed. "We discovered something unique about human DNA. It could be programmed to adapt, to absorb and redirect energy. The first trials were devastating, but those who survived became something new." He gestured to himself. "I'm one of the last generation 1 subjects. We can absorb energy, redirect it, even store it for later use. Each subsequent generation developed new abilities. Some could manipulate gravity, others could interface directly with technology. We became living weapons." Naira's crystalline structure pulsed with agitation. If this is true, why hasn't the peacekeeping force heard of it? Why maintain the illusion of weakness? "Because, Lieutenant, there are forces in the galaxy that would happily exterminate humanity to prevent us from evolving further. The same forces that are trying to replicate our research right now." A new hologram appeared, showing recent access logs. Someone had been in the facility within the last solar cycle. Marcus's expression darkened. "The hegemony never accepted their defeat in the Nexus Wars. They've spent decades searching for facilities like this one, and now they're close to finding what they want." The distress signal, Naira realized, it wasn't random. No, it was a warning. There's a hegemony Black Ops team coming, led by someone who knows almost as much about Project Prometheus as I do. Dr. Elena Volkov, another survivor, but one who believes humanity's evolution should be controlled, weaponized, and sold to the highest bidder. The station's lighting suddenly shifted to red, and alarms began blaring. Marcus rushed to a console, his fingers flying over the controls. "They're here, earlier than I expected." Naira raised her rifle, combat protocols activating. "How many?" "At least a dozen. Elite commandos, probably augmented with stolen Prometheus tech. They'll be hunting both of us now." He turned to face her, his expression grave. "I need to know where you stand, Lieutenant. Once they realize you know about the project, they won't let you leave alive. And if they get their hands on the complete research data, they'll create an army of enhanced soldiers without humanity's ethical constraints." The station shuddered as docking clamps engaged somewhere above them. Naira's training screamed at her to report this to Central Command, to call for backup. but she had seen enough to know this went beyond normal peacekeeping protocols. "What's your plan?" she asked, adjusting her rifle's power settings. Marcus smiled, and this time there was nothing sad about it. His skin began to glow with stored energy, and the air around him seemed to crackle with potential. "We destroy everything, all the research, all the samples. Then we make sure Alina and her team never leave this station. But first, I need to show you something else, the real reason I came back." He led her toward a heavily shielded door at the back of the lab. Because Project Prometheus wasn't just about making super soldiers, Lieutenant. It was about preparing humanity for what's coming. Something even the hegemony doesn't know about. Something that's been sleeping in the void between galaxies for millions of years. The door opened, revealing a chamber bathed in otherworldly light. Inside, suspended in a containment field, floated a crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with its own consciousness. Naira's translator suddenly went dead, but she could have sworn she heard whispers in her mind. "This," Marcus said solemnly, "is what really started humanity's evolution, and it's about to wake up." Race against time. The crystalline structure pulsed with increasing frequency, its light synchronizing with Naira's own bioluminescence. She felt drawn to it, her natural resonance responding to its ancient presence. "What is it?" she whispered, her translator still offline. "We call it the catalyst," Marcus answered, his eyes reflecting the ethereal glow. "Found it buried in an asteroid near Alpha Centauri. It's older than human civilization, possibly older than your species too, and it's been changing us. Not just humans who were part of Project Prometheus, but all of humanity, gradually, generation by generation." The station's security alerts intensified. Above them, heavy boots thundered on metal decking. The hegemony strike team was moving fast. "Alina will head straight here," Marcus said, already moving to secure the lab's entrance. "She knows about the catalyst, but not its true purpose. She thinks it's just a power source, a way to enhance the Prometheus modifications." Naira's tactical training kicked in. "How many entrances?" 3, main door, maintenance shaft, and emergency evacuation tube." Marcus pressed his hand against a wall panel, and hidden defensive turrets emerged from the ceiling. "But we're not trying to keep them out. We need to get the catalyst to my ship." "Your ship," Naira's crystalline form flickered with surprise. "We should take it to Peacekeeping Command. They can protect." "No," Marcus cut her off sharply. "The catalyst isn't just changing humans, Lieutenant. It's preparing us. There's something out there in the dark between galaxies, something that wiped out the civilization that created this crystal. We're not its first chosen species, but we might be its last chance." The main door exploded inward in a shower of superheated metal. Through the smoke strode a tall woman in advanced combat armor, her movements unnaturally fluid. Behind her, heavily armed commandos took up firing positions. "Marcus," the woman said, her voice carrying an artificial harmonics that set Naira's crystalline structure on edge. "Still playing the hero after all these years." "Alina," Marcus positioned himself between her and the catalyst, "still working for the highest bidder." Dr. Alina Volkov removed her helmet, revealing features that might once have been beautiful, but now seemed almost artificial, her skin laced with visible cybernetic enhancements. "You know what humanity could become with proper guidance. Why fight the inevitable?" "Because your version of inevitability ends with us becoming exactly what the catalyst is trying to prepare us to fight." Marcus's skin began to glow brighter, absorbed energy ready to be released. Alina's augmented eyes focused on Naira. "A Lumerian peacekeeper? How disappointing, Marcus. I thought you understood the need for secrecy." "She deserves to know. Her people might be the key to all of this. Why do you think the catalyst resonates with her crystalline structure?" Naira's mind raced. The strange connection she felt, the way her natural luminescence responded to the artifact, it couldn't be coincidence. Alina signaled her troops. "Take them. The peacekeeper dies, but I want Marcus alive. We'll need his genetic material." The commandos opened fire. Marcus moved with impossible speed, his body absorbing and redirecting plasma bolts. Naira dove behind a console, returning fire. Her shots found targets, but the enhanced soldiers shrugged off wounds that should have been fatal. "The maintenance shaft," Marcus shouted. "Get the catalyst, I'll hold them." Naira glanced at the crystalline artifact, still pulsing in its containment field. According to everything she knew, this was the moment to call for backup, to follow procedures. But procedures didn't account for ancient artifacts that could evolve entire species. She made her decision. Moving with the fluid grace of her species, Naira reached the containment field controls. The catalyst seemed to sing to her as she released it, its crystalline structure harmonizing with her own. The moment she touched it, visions flooded her mind, vast dark shapes moving between galaxies, civilizations rising and falling, and a desperate plan set in motion millions of years ago. No, Elena's scream carried artificial harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. She charged forward, her enhanced body moving faster than human limits should allow. Marcus intercepted her, his stored energy releasing in a blinding flash. "Run! My ship's docked at emergency airlock E7. The codes are in your comm unit." Naira hesitated for a split second, torn between duty and necessity. Then she ran, cradling the catalyst against her crystalline chest, its light pulsing in time with her own natural glow. Behind her, the sounds of combat intensified. She had to trust Marcus could handle himself. Right now, the fate of multiple civilizations might depend on getting the catalyst to safety. And as she ran through the darkened corridors of Helios 7, Naira realized humanity's apparent weakness might have been their greatest strength all along. They were adaptable, resilient, and most importantly, they were chosen by something far older and wiser than any current civilization to face a threat they couldn't yet comprehend. If they survived the next few minutes, she had a feeling the galaxy would never be the same, the greater threat. Naira raced through Helios 7's winding corridors, the catalyst's pulsing light guiding her way. Each time her crystalline form resonated with the ancient artifact, more fragments of understanding flooded her consciousness. She saw vast beings of living darkness, consuming entire galaxies. She witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations far older than any known to current galactic history. The emergency airlock E7 appeared ahead, and beside it sat Marcus's ship, a sleek vessel that somehow managed to look both ancient and advanced at the same time. As she approached, the ship's systems activated automatically, responding to the catalyst's presence. A massive explosion rocked the station. Through the viewport, Naira saw a hegemony assault cruiser decloaking, its weapon systems charging. They weren't just sending troops, they were prepared to destroy the entire station. "Getting predictable in your old age, Elena?" a familiar voice called from behind her. Marcus emerged from a side corridor, his environment suit scorched but intact. He was supporting himself against the wall, clearly drained from the fight. "The others?" Naira asked, already knowing the answer from his expression. "Elena got away with 3 of her enhanced troops. The rest won't be bothering anyone again." He stumbled toward his ship, placing his hand on the hull. Complex patterns of light spread from his touch. "We need to move. That cruiser isn't the only surprise she brought." The ship's airlock opened smoothly, revealing an interior that defied conventional spaceship design. Crystalline growths similar to the catalyst emerged from organic-looking walls, pulsing with the same otherworldly energy. "What is this?" Naira asked, stepping inside. "The other reason Elena wants me alive," Marcus answered, taking the pilot's seat. "This ship isn't just technology, it's alive. Growing, evolving, just like humanity has been. The catalyst isn't alone. There are others like it, scattered across the galaxy, waiting to be found." The ship powered up without any visible controls being touched. Through the viewscreen, Naira watched as additional hegemony ships emerged from cloak. They were surrounded. "Marcus," she said urgently, "even with your abilities and this ship, we can't fight our way through a hegemony battle group." He smiled, but it was grim. "We're not going to fight them. We're going to show them what they're really up against." He turned to her, his eyes now glowing with the same light as the catalyst. "The catalyst chose you for a reason, Lieutenant. Your species, the Lumerians, you're not just evolved for bioluminescence. You're living crystals, capable of resonating with the same frequency as the artifacts." The catalyst in Naira's arms pulsed stronger, and suddenly she understood. Her crystalline form wasn't just compatible with the artifact, it was made for it. The Lumerians weren't just another spacefaring race. They were meant to be conduits. "They're firing," she warned, seeing the hegemony ships launch their first salvo. "Let them," Marcus said calmly. "Lieutenant Naira Voss, would you do me the honor of interfacing with my ship's core?" There was no time to hesitate. Naira pressed the catalyst to her chest, allowing it to phase through her crystalline form. The sensation was indescribable, like becoming pure light and energy. Her consciousness expanded, connecting with the ship's living systems. Through this enhanced awareness, she finally saw the truth. The darkness between galaxies wasn't empty. Something vast and ancient moved there, patient and hungry. The catalyst and its siblings were pieces of a galactic defense system, created by a civilization that had sacrificed itself to give future species a fighting chance. Humanity's apparent weakness had made them perfect vessels for controlled evolution. The Lumerians' crystalline nature made them ideal interfaces for the ancient technology. And now, as the hegemony ships opened fire, Naira understood why these two species needed to work together. Energy from the enemy weapons washed over the ship, but instead of causing damage, it was absorbed, channeled through Naira's crystalline form and the catalyst into the ship's living systems. The vessel began to transform, its hull growing and reshaping itself into something that hadn't existed in millions of years. "Now," Marcus said softly, his own enhanced biology resonating with the ship's evolution, "let's show them what humanity and Lumerians can really do together." Through their combined consciousness, Naira and Marcus activated the ship's true form. A pulse of pure energy rippled out, temporarily disabling the hegemony vessels. But more importantly, it sent a signal, a wake-up call to other catalysts hidden throughout the galaxy. The war for survival that had been planned for millions of years was about to begin. And as their ship accelerated away from the stunned hegemony fleet, Naira realized this was just the beginning. The real question was, would the galaxy unite in time to face what was coming from the darkness between the stars? Evolution's edge. The transformed ship cut through space like a blade of living crystal, its hull still evolving as they fled the hegemony fleet. Through her connection with the catalyst, Naira could feel other artifacts awakening across the galaxy, responding to their signal. But they weren't the only ones who noticed. "Multiple dimensional rifts detected," Marcus announced, his hands dancing over controls that responded to thought as much as touch. "The signals stirred something in the void. They know we're preparing." Through the ship's enhanced sensors, Naira saw them, vast shapes moving in the darkness between stars, like living shadows that devoured light itself. The ancient enemy that the catalyst's creators had sacrificed everything to fight was finally revealing itself. "How long?" she asked, her crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. "Months, maybe weeks," Marcus replied. "Elena's attack forced our hand. We're not ready." His expression darkened. "And we've got another problem. She's broadcasting our position to every hegemony ship in the sector." As if to confirm his words, space around them lit up with arriving warships. Not just hegemony vessels now, but ships from every major power in the galaxy. The peacekeeping force, the collective, even the notoriously isolationist Quantum Dominion. "They're scared," Naira realized, seeing the fleet's aggressive formation. "The signal, the rifts, they think were the threat." Marcus nodded grimly. "Can't blame them. We just activated ancient technology across the galaxy and transformed a ship into something that shouldn't exist. From their perspective, we're either invaders or terrorists." The ship's communication system crackled to life. "This is Admiral Chen of the Combined Fleet. You are ordered to power down and prepare for boarding. This is your only warning." Through their shared connection to the ship, Naira and Marcus felt Elena's vessel approaching from behind, trying to stay hidden in the fleet's sensor shadow. She wasn't giving up. "We can't fight them all," Naira said, "and we can't let Elena get the catalyst, not now." Marcus's eyes glowed with inner fire. "No, but we can show them the truth." He turned to her, his expression both determined and afraid. "The catalyst chose both our species for a reason. Humanity's adaptability, Lumerian resonance, together, we can do what the ancients couldn't, but it has to be a choice. Naira understood. The catalyst had shown her the past, but also possible futures. If they forced this evolution, they'd be no better than Alina. The galaxy had to unite willingly against the greater threat. "Do it," she said. Marcus nodded and opened a channel to the fleet. "Admiral Chen, this is Marcus Blackwood. Before you open fire, I suggest you look at your long-range sensors, specifically the void between the Carina and Sagittarius arms." There was a long pause. "Then by all the stars, what are those things?" "The real enemy," Marcus replied. "The reason humanity was guided to evolve, the reason the Lumerians developed crystalline forms. We're not your enemy, Admiral. We're your only warning." Through the ship's enhanced sensors, they watched as the fleet scanners detected what they'd already seen, the massive shapes stirring in the void, ancient and hungry. "The catalyst and others like it," Marcus continued, "were left by a civilization that died stopping these beings last time. They knew someone would need to be ready when they returned. Humanity's weakness, it was perfect for controlled evolution. The Lumerians' crystalline nature, designed to interface with the ancient defense network." Alina's ship suddenly broke from its hiding spot, weapons charging. "Don't listen to him. With this technology, the hegemony could rule the galaxy. We don't need to share power with lesser." Her words cut off as her ship's systems failed, the catalyst's energy reaching out through space itself. The living shadows in the void grew more distinct, more urgent. "We don't have time for civil wars or power grabs," Naira transmitted to the fleet. "Look at your sensors, really look. That's what's coming for all of us." The fleet's formation shifted, weapons powering down as the truth of their situation became clear. The shapes in the void were moving faster now, drawn by the awakening of the catalysts. Admiral Chen's voice came through again, this time without hostility. "What do you need from us?" Marcus smiled, relief visible on his face. "First, we find the other catalysts. Then we do what humanity does best. We adapt. We evolve, not just humans, not just Lumerians, but every species willing to face this threat together." "And if we refuse?" someone else asked. Through her connection to the catalyst, Naira saw the alternative worlds going dark one by one, entire species disappearing into living shadow. "Then everything ends," she said simply. "We stand together or we fall alone." The fleet's response was unanimous. As battle groups reorganized for defense rather than attack, Naira felt the catalyst pulse with something like approval. The plan set in motion millions of years ago was finally bearing fruit. "Ready?" Marcus asked, his hand hovering over the ship's master controls. Naira looked out at the assembled fleet, at the shadows lurking between stars, and at her own crystalline reflection. Two species, once thought to be on opposite ends of the evolutionary spectrum, now stood as the galaxy's best hope for survival. "Ready," she confirmed. Their ship, a fusion of ancient technology and living crystal, turned toward the darkness between stars. They had weeks at most before the enemy arrived in force. But for the first time since the catalyst's creators had fallen, the galaxy faced the threat united. The real evolution was just beginning.